What if everything you believed was real, was carefully designed to trap your mind? A missing patient, a remote island, and a case that slowly turns into something far more disturbing than anyone expected. No one can be trusted. The island hides something far darker than a simple disappearance. And by the end, he realizes the truth was never outside the walls. It was inside his mind. Welcome to Shutter Island, a place where reality and illusion become so tangled that even the truth feels like another lie. By the end of this story, you'll be asking yourself one question. What if everything you believed was real? Never happened at all. The year is 1954. Dark storm clouds roll across the Atlantic as powerful waves crash against a small ferry, making its way toward one of the most isolated locations in America. Standing on deck is U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels. Beside him is his new partner, Chuck All. The two federal marshals have been assigned to investigate the disappearance of a patient from Ashcliff Hospital, a psychiatric institution located on the remote and heavily guarded Shutter Island. Ashcliff isn't an ordinary mental hospital. It's home to the country's most violent and dangerously unstable criminal patients. People considered too dangerous to ever return to society. Every patient locked inside these walls has a horrifying past. But the case Teddy is about to investigate is unlike anything he's ever seen. A woman named Rachel Solando has vanished from her locked room. The door was secured from the outside. The windows were covered with thick steel bars. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of an escape. It's as if she simply disappeared into thin air. What should have been a routine missing person investigation is about to become something far more disturbing. A mystery where every answer creates even more questions, and where Teddy will soon begin questioning not only the people around him, but his own mind. As the ferry docks, Teddy immediately notices how isolated the island feels. Towering cliffs surround the shoreline. Cold ocean winds echo through the empty landscape, and the massive stone walls surrounding Ashcliff make the hospital look less like a place for treatment, and more like a fortress built to keep nightmares locked inside. Before they're allowed through the front gate, the deputy warden orders Teddy and Chuck to surrender their firearms. Inside these walls, no visitors are allowed to carry weapons. As they walk toward the hospital, he explains how the facility is organized. Ward A houses the male patients. Ward B is reserved for female patients. And then there's Ward C, the most feared section of the entire hospital. Its patients are so violent and unpredictable that no one is allowed inside without armed supervision. Even the guards become noticeably quieter whenever Ward C is mentioned. Moments later, Teddy and Chuck are introduced to the hospital's chief psychiatrist, Dr. John Cawley. Soft-spoken and remarkably calm, Dr. Cawley doesn't seem like the man responsible for treating America's most dangerous psychiatric patients. After welcoming the marshals, he begins explaining Rachel Solando's history. Rachel's husband was killed during World War II. Overwhelmed by grief, she eventually suffered a complete psychological breakdown. During one of her episodes, she drowned her 3 children. After the tragedy, she was committed to Ashcliff Hospital. Despite years of treatment, Rachel never accepted what she'd done. Instead, her mind created a different reality. She believed her children were still alive. She believed she was living peacefully in her own home. To her, the doctors and nurses weren't hospital staff at all. They were simply neighbors, delivery workers, and ordinary people passing through her everyday life. Her mind had completely replaced reality with a comforting illusion. Then Dr. Cawley reveals the impossible. Sometime during the previous night, Rachel vanished. Her room was still locked. The windows were untouched. No guard reported seeing her. No one heard anything. And yet, she was gone, without a trace. Teddy exchanges a quick glance with Chuck. Something about this case doesn't add up. And deep down, he has the unsettling feeling that this investigation is leading them towards something far more dangerous than a missing patient. Dr. Cawley leads Teddy and Chuck to Rachel Solando's room. At first glance, nothing seems unusual. The bed is neatly made. The furniture is untouched. There are no signs of a struggle. No broken glass. No damaged locks. It looks as though the room had simply been abandoned. Teddy slowly walks around, studying every detail. Something doesn't feel right. He kneels beside the bed and begins inspecting the floor. That's when he notices something odd. One of the wooden floorboards appears slightly loose. He carefully lifts it and discovers a small piece of paper hidden underneath. Written across it are two cryptic lines. The Law of Four. Who is 67? Teddy stares at the note. It isn't a cry for help. It isn't a confession. It's a riddle. And somehow, he knows it means something. Chuck looks over his shoulder. What do you think it means? Teddy slips the note into his pocket. I don't know yet, but Rachel wanted someone to find it. The discovery raises an even bigger question. If Rachel left this message, when did she hide it? And if she planned her escape, how did she get out of a locked room without anyone noticing? The mystery is only getting stranger. The three men head toward the hospital's common room. Dr. Colley explains that every patient passes through this area several times a day. Guards are stationed here around the clock. No one enters. No one leaves. At least, that's how it's supposed to work. Teddy studies the room carefully. Large windows. Heavy security. Multiple guards. If Rachel escaped, someone should have seen her. But according to the staff, no one did. That answer isn't good enough. Teddy turns to Dr. Colley. I want the duty roster from last night. The names of every doctor, every nurse, every orderly. Everyone who was working. For a brief moment, Dr. Colley hesitates. It's only a second, but Teddy notices. Then the doctor smiles politely. I'll have everything prepared for you after dinner. The hesitation only deepens Teddy's suspicions. Someone here is hiding something. Later that afternoon, Teddy and Chuck begin searching the island. The deputy warden insists Rachel couldn't have escaped. A violent storm had hit the island the night before. The ocean currents are deadly. Anyone attempting to swim away would have drowned within minutes. That means Rachel is almost certainly still somewhere on the island. The search takes them across rocky cliffs, dense forests, and narrow trails overlooking the crashing waves below. Hours pass. Nothing. No footprints. No clothing. No sign that Rachel was ever there. Just as Teddy is about to give up, something catches his eye. Far across the island, a tall lighthouse rises above the cliffs. Unlike the rest of the island, it's surrounded by armed guards. Teddy stops walking. What's over there? The deputy warden barely looks in its direction. Just the lighthouse. It handles the island's utilities. His answer comes too quickly, too casually. If it's only a maintenance facility, why is it guarded like a military base? Teddy doesn't argue, but he doesn't forget it either. The lighthouse has just become the most suspicious place on the island. As evening falls, Teddy and Chuck begin interviewing the hospital staff. One by one. Doctors, nurses, orderlies, guards. Everyone tells the same story. No one saw Rachel. No one heard anything unusual. No one knows how she disappeared. Their answers sound almost rehearsed, as if they've all memorized the same script. Then Teddy learns something important. Rachel's primary psychiatrist was Dr. Lester Sheehan. Naturally, Teddy asks to speak with him, but the response catches him off guard. Dr. Sheehan left the island on vacation. The very morning Rachel disappeared. The timing couldn't be worse or more suspicious. A key doctor vanishes. A patient disappears, and nobody seems concerned. The more Teddy investigates, the less he trusts the people running Ashcliff. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a disturbing thought begins to grow. What if this investigation isn't about finding a missing patient at all? What if someone wants to make sure she is never found? That evening, Teddy and Chuck are invited to the home of Dr. John Colley. Waiting inside is another senior psychiatrist, Dr. Jeremiah Naring. Unlike Dr. Colley, Naring is quiet, reserved, and constantly studying Teddy's every move. The conversation begins politely, but it doesn't stay that way for long. When Teddy learns that Dr. Naring is originally from Germany, painful memories from World War II come rushing back. He remembers the concentration camps, the bodies, the horrors he witnessed after the war. His mood changes instantly. The room grows tense. Trying to steer the conversation back to the investigation, Teddy asks to review the hospital's patient records. He wants to know exactly who is being treated at Ashcliff, and whether Rachel's disappearance is connected to another patient. Dr. Colley remains calm, but Dr. Naring immediately refuses. The files are confidential. That answer doesn't satisfy Teddy. If a federal investigation is underway, he says, those files are evidence. Again, the answer is no. Now Teddy's patience is gone. If you won't cooperate, he warns, I'll report everything to the FBI. And this investigation will become a lot bigger than any of you want. The doctors exchange a brief glance. Neither one responds. For a moment, the room falls completely silent. Later that night, Teddy lies awake in his room. Outside, The wind pounds against the windows. Rain lashes the island. Sleep finally comes. But peace does not. He dreams of his wife, Dolores. She's standing in their apartment. Calm, beautiful, almost glowing. She smiles at him. Then she whispers, "Why are you here, Teddy?" He reaches for her. But before he can touch her, ash begins falling from the ceiling. Dolores slowly crumbles into dust right in front of him. Teddy wakes up gasping for air. His clothes are soaked with sweat. The nightmare feels so real. It takes him several seconds to remember where he is. The next morning, another problem emerges. The storm has grown even stronger. Powerful waves have destroyed the ferry dock. Telephone lines are down. No boats can reach the island. No one can leave. A hospital staff member delivers the news. "I'm afraid you're stranded here until the weather clears." Teddy looks out the window at the raging ocean. The island suddenly feels even more isolated than before. Whoever is hiding the truth now has all the time they need. Despite the worsening weather, Teddy refuses to stop the investigation. The mysterious note still lingers in his mind. The Law of Four. Who is 67? Ashcliffe officially has 66 patients. So who is number 67? Was someone secretly admitted? Or was someone being hidden? The question refuses to leave him alone. Later, Teddy and Chuck compare everything they've learned so far. Nothing fits. A woman disappears from a locked room. The hospital staff all tell the same story. Important records are kept hidden. Rachel's psychiatrist conveniently leaves the island on the very day she vanishes. And a heavily guarded lighthouse sits at the edge of the island, completely off limits. The investigation is no longer about finding one missing patient. It's becoming something much bigger. Then Teddy makes a decision. There's one place they still haven't searched. Ward C, the section every doctor avoids talking about. The place where Ashcliffe keeps its most violent patients. The deputy warden immediately objects. The storm damaged part of the security system. It's too dangerous. But Teddy doesn't care anymore. If Rachel is hiding anywhere, she's hiding there. After a long silence, permission is finally granted. Without saying another word, Teddy and Chuck step inside Ward C. Neither of them realizes. They're about to uncover secrets far more terrifying than anything they imagined. Ward C feels nothing like the rest of Ashcliffe. The air is colder. The lights barely work. Water drips from the ceiling, echoing through the dark corridors. Suddenly, a man bursts out from the darkness. The moment he sees Teddy, he panics and starts running. For a split second, Teddy believes he's finally found Andrew Leddy's. He takes off after him. The narrow hallways twist like a maze. Chuck falls behind as Teddy chases the man deeper into Ward C. Without warning, the patient spins around and lunges at him. The two crash into the floor. A violent struggle breaks out. After a few tense moments, Teddy manages to overpower him. Breathing heavily, he shines his flashlight on the man's face. It's not Andrew Leddy's, just another frightened patient. Teddy slowly lets him go. As the man disappears into the darkness, a quiet voice echoes from one of the nearby cells. "Andrew." The voice repeats the name again. And again, Teddy cautiously approaches. A figure slowly steps into the dim light, laughing. Then Teddy recognizes him. It's George Noyce, the same patient who had secretly warned him that something was terribly wrong at Ashcliffe. But George looks much worse than before. His face is bruised. One eye is swollen shut. Fresh cuts cover his body. He points at his injuries and lets out a bitter laugh. "They did this to me. Because I talked to you." Teddy grips the prison bars. "Who did this?" George ignores the question. Instead, he leans closer. "They're doing the exact same thing to you that they did to me." Teddy shakes his head. "No, you're trying to confuse me." George smiles. "No, Teddy, you're confusing yourself." He pauses for a moment, then asks a simple question. "Since the day you arrived, have you been alone for even 1 minute?" Teddy thinks. "No, Chuck's been with me almost the entire time." George nods. "Exactly." Teddy frowns. "What does that mean?" George lowers his voice. "Think about it. Had you ever worked with Chuck before this case?" "No." "So why do you trust him?" The question hangs in the air. For the first time, Teddy doesn't have an answer. George continues. "They're watching you every second, every conversation, every move you make." Then his expression changes. "You keep searching for Andrew Leddy's. But that's not what you're really looking for." Teddy's eyes narrow. "What are you talking about?" George quietly says one name. "Dolores." The name hits Teddy like a punch. "You still can't let her go." George whispers. And until you do, you'll never escape this place. For several seconds, neither man speaks. Then George leans even closer to the bars. If you really want answers, stop searching the wards. He slowly points toward the coastline. Go to the lighthouse. That's where you'll find the truth. The guards begin approaching. George steps back into the shadows. Before disappearing, he says one final thing. Whatever happens, don't trust anyone, not even Chuck. As Teddy leaves Ward C, George's words keep replaying in his mind. Outside, Chuck finally catches up with him. I've been looking everywhere for you. Teddy studies his partner's face. For the first time since arriving on the island, he isn't sure whether he can trust the man standing beside him. Chuck reaches into his jacket and pulls out a patient intake form. I found something. Across the top of the page, one number stands out. Patient 67. Chuck looks at Teddy. This might be the person we're looking for. But Teddy barely glances at the document. His thoughts are somewhere else. The lighthouse. George was certain the answers were there. We're going, Teddy says. Chuck hesitates. Now? It's getting dark. The cliffs are dangerous. Teddy stares toward the distant lighthouse. No, I'm going. Without another word, he turns and disappears into the forest alone. Behind him, Chuck watches in silence. The deeper Teddy ventures into the woods, the more difficult the trail becomes. Branches scrape against his face. The wind howls through the trees. More than once, he loses sight of the path. After hours of climbing over rocks and fighting through the storm, he realizes he can't reach the lighthouse before nightfall. Reluctantly, he turns back. But when he returns to the place where he left Chuck, his partner is gone. There's no sign of him anywhere. Teddy calls out his name. Only the wind answers. Then, he notices something below the cliffs. A body. It looks exactly like Chuck. Without thinking, Teddy races down the rocks. But by the time he reaches the bottom, the body has vanished. Standing alone beside the crashing waves, he notices something else. A faint light, glowing from inside a small cave. Teddy stares at the faint light glowing from inside the cave. For a moment, he hesitates. If Chuck really fell from the cliff, where did he go? And who could possibly be hiding out here? Carefully, he steps inside. The cave is surprisingly warm. A small fire burns near the back wall. Then, a woman's voice breaks the silence. Don't come any closer. Teddy freezes. A woman slowly emerges from the shadows. She's exhausted, thin, terrified. Every movement suggests she's been hiding for a very long time. Keeping his hands where she can see them, Teddy speaks calmly. I'm a U.S. Marshal. I'm not here to hurt you. She studies him for a moment before lowering her guard. Then Teddy asks the obvious question. Who are you? The woman takes a deep breath. My name is Rachel Solando. Teddy's heart skips a beat. Rachel Solando? The missing patient from Ashcliff is also named Rachel Solando. Seeing the confusion on his face, the woman quickly explains. The Rachel they're looking for isn't me. I was a psychiatrist at Ashcliff. And after I discovered what they were really doing on this island, they locked me away. She claims the hospital has been performing secret experiments on patients. Not to cure them, but to control them. She says some patients undergo dangerous brain procedures. Others are given experimental drugs that slowly destroy their sense of reality. Anyone who questions the system simply disappears. I tried to expose them, she says. So they declared me insane. I escaped before they could finish the job. Since then, she survived by hiding in caves and moving constantly through the island. Never staying in one place for too long. Always afraid someone will find her. Teddy listens in silence. Every word seems to explain the strange things he's witnessed since arriving on the island. The missing records, the guarded lighthouse, the strange behavior of the staff. It all begins to fit together. Then Rachel asks him a question. Since you arrived, have they given you medication? Teddy nods. For my headaches. She immediately grows serious. They're not treating your headaches. They're affecting your mind. The drugs make you question yourself. They blur your memory. They make it harder to tell what's real. Teddy instinctively looks down at his hands. They're trembling. He hadn't noticed before. Rachel watches him carefully. The symptoms usually appear after a day or two. Once they start, they only get worse. The cave suddenly feels much smaller, much darker. For the rest of the night, Teddy stays hidden inside, unable to sleep, unable to stop thinking. By sunrise, he's made up his mind. He's going back to Ashcliff. And this time, he's getting the truth. When Teddy arrives at the hospital the next morning, Dr. Colley is already waiting for him. He smiles politely. "Good morning, Marshall. We've been looking everywhere for you." Teddy says nothing. Dr. Colley continues. "The missing patient has been found. Rachel Solando is back in her room. Your investigation is officially over." Teddy stares at him. Nothing about the doctor's calm expression feels genuine. "I'm leaving," Teddy says. "My partner and I are taking the first ferry off this island." Dr. Colley looks puzzled. "Your partner?" "Chuck." For the first time, Dr. Colley's expression changes. He studies Teddy carefully. Then he quietly replies, "Marshall, you arrived here alone. There was never anyone named Chuck." Everything around Teddy suddenly feels unreal. His breathing becomes heavier. He looks around the hospital corridor. The nurses, the guards, the doctors. No one reacts, as if what Dr. Colley just said is completely normal. For a split second, Teddy wonders if he's losing his mind. Then he forces himself to stay calm. "You're right," he says quietly. "I came alone." But inside, he no longer believes a single word anyone at Ashcliff tells him. Somewhere on this island, the truth is waiting, and he's convinced there's only one place left to find it. The lighthouse. Teddy moves carefully through the hospital, determined to reach the lighthouse before anyone can stop him. The halls are unusually quiet, almost too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, Dr. Naring steps into his path. "Marshall Daniels," he says calmly. "You look exhausted. Let me help you." As he speaks, Teddy notices something in the doctor's hand. A syringe. Without thinking, Teddy grabs Dr. Naring's wrist. The two struggle for control. In one swift motion, Teddy turns the syringe around and injects the doctor instead. Within seconds, Dr. Naring collapses to the floor. Teddy doesn't wait. He runs. The storm may have passed, but the sea is still violent. The lighthouse stands alone on the rocky cliffs, separated from the rest of the island by crashing waves. There are no boats, no bridges, only the freezing ocean. Without hesitation, Teddy dives into the water. The current fights to pull him away. Every wave crashes against him with incredible force. But somehow, he makes it across. Soaked, exhausted, and barely able to stand, Teddy climbs the stone steps leading to the lighthouse. This is it, the place where he believes every answer is waiting. He pushes open the heavy door. Inside, there are no operating rooms, no secret laboratories, no patients, just a quiet staircase leading upward. Confused, Teddy slowly climbs to the top. Waiting for him is Dr. John Colley. Alone, calm, almost as if he'd been expecting him. Teddy immediately raises his gun. "Don't move." Dr. Colley doesn't flinch. Instead, he looks directly into Teddy's eyes. "Before you pull the trigger," he says, "you should know something. Your gun isn't loaded." Teddy quickly checks the weapon. The chamber is empty. His expression changes. Dr. Colley gently places a folder on the table between them. Then he says the words that change everything. "There is no U.S. Marshal Teddy Daniels. Your real name is Andrew Leddies." For a long moment, neither man speaks. Dr. Colley continues. 2 years ago, your wife, Dolores, suffered from severe mental illness. One afternoon, during a psychotic episode, she drowned your 3 children. Teddy's breathing becomes heavier. You found them in the lake. And in your grief, you shot Dolores. The memories begin crashing back. Not dreams, not hallucinations. Memories. Every painful detail returns. The lake, the children, Dolores, the gunshot. Unable to live with what happened, Andrew's mind created another identity. He became Teddy Daniels, a brave U.S. Marshal investigating a conspiracy. He transformed his guilt into a mystery he could solve, and he invented someone else to blame. Andrew Leddies, the very man he had been searching for, was himself. Dr. Colley explains that this entire investigation was never real. It was an elaborate therapeutic role-play designed by the doctors at Ashcliff. Everyone participated. The guards, the nurses, the hospital staff, even Chuck. Chuck was never Teddy's partner. He was actually Dr. Lester Sheehan, Andrew's psychiatrist. This was their final attempt to help Andrew accept the truth instead of retreating into another delusion. For a moment, Andrew finally sees everything clearly. The fantasy disappears. Reality takes its place. He quietly whispers, "My name is Andrew Leddies." Dr. Colley allows himself a small smile. After years of treatment, it finally seems like they've reached him. For the first time, Andrew has accepted the truth. The doctors believe the experiment has worked. But the following morning, Andrew is sitting outside the hospital with Dr. Sheehan. He seems calm, peaceful. Then he looks at him and quietly says, "So, Chuck, when are we going to catch that missing patient?" Dr. Sheehan's face falls. The delusion appears to have returned. The experiment has failed. There is only one treatment left: a lobotomy. As the orderlies approach, Andrew slowly stands. He begins walking with them toward the hospital. Then, without looking at Dr. Sheehan, he says one final sentence. A sentence that changes the meaning of the entire film. Which would be worse? To live as a monster, or to die as a good man? Dr. Sheehan stops walking. He realizes something heartbreaking. Andrew isn't confused. He remembers everything. He knows exactly who he is. He simply can't live with the guilt of what he has done. Rather than spend the rest of his life carrying that unbearable pain, he chooses the lobotomy. Not because he's lost his mind, but because it's the only escape he has left. And the movie leaves us with one haunting question. Did Andrew really lose his mind? Or did he make one final choice to escape his guilt? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.